The city of New York, 1984. A place where skyscrapers clawed at the heavens, where neon lights masked the shadows of the streets below. The rich sat in their high-rise towers, sipping wine worth more than a poor man's monthly wage, while the forgotten wandered in alleyways, clutching scraps of bread like treasure. Among those forgotten was Samuel Turner, a man whose back had been bent not just by age, but by the crushing weight of a world that had no place for him. His hands were calloused, his clothes worn thin, yet his spirit held a spark that refused to die. Samuel had lived a life of labor, of sacrifice, of dignity and poverty. But now, in his old age, he found himself not just hungry, but haunted by the cries of his granddaughter Lily, the only light left in his fading world. The encounter, the shadow of wealth. Voiceover, suspenseful build. One bitterly cold evening, as Samuel searched for work outside a wealthy district, he stumbled upon a spectacle. A convoy of black cars pulled up outside the Wellington estate, the mansion of one of the city's richest men, Richard Wellington. The crowd whispered his name with both awe and resentment. Richard was a man known for his power, his cunning, his empire that stretched across banks, industries, and politics. To some, he was a genius. To others, a tyrant. Samuel watched from the shadows as Richard stepped out, his presence commanding, his tailored suit untouched by the falling snow. In that moment, two worlds collided. The world of a man with nothing, and the world of a man who owned everything. But fate had plans neither of them could foresee. The first test, a stranger's offer. Days later, as Samuel sat outside a church with Lily shivering beside him, a messenger approached. He handed Samuel a sealed envelope with no name, no mark, just a single instruction. "Deliver this letter to Mr. Richard Wellington, alone." Samuel hesitated, suspicion gnawing at him. But hunger and desperation overpowered fear. He took Lily by the hand and made his way to the gates of the Wellington estate. Inside, under the grand chandelier, Richard Wellington sat in his leather chair, studying Samuel with eyes sharp as a hawk's. "You delivered it," Richard said, his voice calm, yet laced with something unspoken. Most men would have opened it. "Why didn't you?" Samuel swallowed hard. "It wasn't mine to open." For the first time in years, Richard smiled, not out of kindness, but curiosity. He saw something in Samuel that money could not buy. Something rare, something dangerous to a man like him. And so the games began. The trials of faith, loyalty in the fire. Richard tested Samuel again and again. A bag of money left accidentally in his path. A forged document that, if delivered, would harm the innocent but earn him fortune. A false witness statement that could destroy a man's life but save Samuel from hunger. Each time, Samuel chose the harder road. He walked away from wealth. He refused to lie. He clung to faith, even when his stomach growled and his granddaughter's cough worsened. And with each choice, Richard's interest grew. But so did his cruelty. For Richard was not testing Samuel out of generosity. He was searching for something or someone who could prove his darkest suspicions wrong. The second messenger, the weight of choice. One stormy night, another package arrived at Samuel's door. Inside was a letter written in elegant hand. "You have done well, but the greatest test lies ahead. Come to the Wellington estate at midnight. Bring no one." Samuel knew this was no ordinary summons. His heart pounded as he kissed Lily's forehead and whispered a prayer. At midnight, he stood once again before the iron gates of wealth. And this time, what awaited him would shatter the line between love and integrity. The final test. The price of a soul. Voiceover, dark, intense. Inside the mansion, Richard stood waiting, his figure cast in shadow. At his side lay a stretcher covered in cloth. With a gesture, the cloth was pulled away. Samuel froze. It was Lily, pale, trembling, gasping for air. "Grandpa!" she whispered weakly. Samuel rushed to her side, clutching her hand. His heart broke at the sight. Richard's voice cut through the silence. "She is ill, Turner, dying, but I hold the cure. The doctors, the medicine, the care, everything. And all I ask is one choice." He placed 2 envelopes on the table. "One contains a contract. Sign it, and your granddaughter lives in wealth and health for the rest of her days. The other contains nothing. Walk away, and you keep your honor." "But you lose her?" Samuel's body trembled. His soul tore apart. His faith battled his fear. "If I save her by becoming a liar," Samuel whispered, "what lesson do I leave her? If I gain the world but lose my soul, then I have nothing." With tears streaming down his face, Samuel reached for the empty envelope. "I will not sell my soul. Not even for her." The golden key fell from his hand, its echo ringing like a bell of truth. The revelation, integrity's reward. For a long moment, silence reigned. Then, to Samuel's astonishment, Richard began to laugh. Not with cruelty, but with relief. The guard stepped back. Lily sat up, healthy, alive, her cheeks full of color. "Grandpa!" she cried, running into his arms. Samuel froze in disbelief. "But how—" Richard's mask of steel finally cracked. Tears welled in his eyes. "You've passed, Turner. You've shown me what I thought was long dead, that honor still lives. That integrity cannot be bought." He fell to his knees before the old pauper, his voice breaking. "All my life I have drowned in riches but starved in spirit. You, who have nothing, are richer than I have ever been." He handed Samuel an envelope heavy with deeds, money, and lifelong care for Lily. "This is not payment. This is redemption. Use it well." The dawn. The true wealth. Voiceover, soft, emotional close.
As dawn broke, Samuel and Lily walked home hand in hand. For the first time in years, hope lit their path. Behind them, Richard Wellington stood at his window, not as a tyrant, but as a man reborn. He whispered into the morning light, "True wealth is not measured by gold, but by the integrity of the soul." And thus, in a city divided by wealth and want, the story of an old pauper and a powerful tycoon became a legend, a reminder that faith, honesty, and sacrifice are treasures no storm can ever destroy.